Okay, hi, we are so excited. Today we are sitting down with just someone who shapes culture, careers, and how you present yourself in the world. Today's guest is Myka Meier. We're so excited to have you on. She is the founder of Beaumont Etiquette, an author and one of the most recognized modern etiquette experts in the world. Her work goes far beyond which fork to use at dinner. She's coached executives, trained professionals across various industries, and made etiquette something genuinely relevant for today's world and how we lead, connect, and carry ourselves. If you've ever felt unsure in a room, wondered how some people just kind of command a presence, or wanted to know what actually separates good leaders from great ones, this episode is for you. So, Myka, welcome to ChompCast. We're super excited to have you on. And today we're going to be answering one big question. What does etiquette truly mean in today's modern world, and why does it matter now more than ever?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so proud to be here. Number one school in the world. I love it. And I'm so proud of you all. Yes, go Gators.
Go Gators.
um, I think I truly, and actually, I just have to say, living in Europe, when I see a Gator logo, I will run across an airport to tackle that person and give them a high five or yell "Go Gators" from across like a different country's border. And it really is such a powerful connection. So very good choice, everyone. But I do, I think to answer your question, etiquette and good manners, really, all etiquette truly is, and no matter what you have thought of it so far, I want you just to erase it, or just erase that from your brain. Gone. And really retrain your brain to think that etiquette is simply about kindness and respect and showing consideration to everyone around you and treating people with respect. That's all it is. So people think of it very much of like forks and knives and and just being proper, but that could not be further from the truth. It's about making people feel comfortable. It's
Yeah,
about walking into a room and introducing yourself, not because that's the proper thing to do or the nice thing to do. It's the action, right? It's the action. It's kindness and respect. It's not just about holding a fork and knife correctly or having good dining manners to be a nice dining companion, but it's actually just to show respect to the people you're eating with. So if you start thinking about good manners and etiquette like that, it just changes everything. And now in the world of AI, good manners is, I think, more important than ever because also it's about emotional intelligence.
yeah,
That is etiquette is emotional intelligence, connecting with other people.
right.
So nowadays, especially, I think it's a massive advantage to have good etiquette.
For sure. And for listeners who are not familiar with your work, how would you describe your journey into the etiquette world? What drew you to this field in the first place, and maybe like your kind of personal story into it?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a strange career choice when you think about it. Like, how did you go from journalism school at University of Florida to an etiquette company? And really, when I graduated. I graduated, I think, May 2nd, and I was on the airplane the next day to New York City. Could not wait to get started.
There
And
we go.
I was working 4 jobs. I couldn't find a job in PR, like, just couldn't do it. I tried everything, but eventually got one and I had a great time and I really loved my job. I moved to another agency in London from New York, and I was working on communications for American companies going global for the first time.
Awesome.
So I did the launch of Victoria's Secret, the first Victoria's Secret in outside of America, and like I J. Crew, the first J. Crew store outside of America. And then we actually had this little known client that I used to beg media in London to interview, now known as Jeff Bezos, when we launched Amazon.co.uk. But at the time, nobody knew who that was. And
Right.
I was teaching clients from America when they would come over for all these big media interviews, and how to sit in this journalist environment and eat with forks and knives. And they were like, Myka, our team's coming in. We've got these huge Financial Times journalists coming in. Can you just go over the table setting? And one of my clients named Jessica Heron, who is an amazing female entrepreneur from San
Oh
Francisco,
yeah.
the founder of Stella and Dot, the wedding channel,
Oh yeah.
she said, Myka, why did I have to fly thousands of miles to London to have you, an American, teach my team good manners before we were meeting the Queen tomorrow? And that was my first aha moment. I was like, you did? And she was like, yeah, this is wild. So I think UF really teaches you about entrepreneurship
Yeah.
and thinking ahead and where can we go? There's no boundaries. So I took my journalism, and my PR background and thought, okay, I can PR my idea, my concept.
Yeah.
And so even though I didn't end up doing PR, I still to this day use everything I learned for my own business. I started my own business in London and I started doing my own PR, my own communications. And eventually, it started with one client and then another, and word spreads. And before you knew it, I was able to have enough clients to quit my PR job and start Beaumont Etiquette, first in London, and then we opened it in New York City 2 years later. And we launched the Plaza Hotel Finishing Program the next year. And now we teach we have a global team that runs across the world, training virtually and in person to Fortune 50 companies.
Yeah.
Wow.
So one thing, just if you're thinking, how am I using what I'm learning now? You might think, I don't even know what I want to do. Like, how am I going to use this class or whatever, this recording class? But actually, you will use these lessons, maybe just not in the way that you traditionally were taught. So don't think it's all for nothing if you're in that place.
Yeah, and all those skills are transferable as well, like you said, and they're all very important when you're going into any field. Like you said, I mean, you were PR and you've now taken it and become an entrepreneur into your own company. That isn't necessarily PR, but those foundations are the same, and that's what makes you set apart as an entrepreneur.
I personally love the substance in a lot of your sentiments, specifically UF, we know no bounds, but also the first answer that you gave us about, just being kind and being, respectful of the people that, are around you. I think like a lot of people kind of get lost in the sauce of there's so many different things going on here at once, or, I have an upcoming interview or meeting and I need to prove something, or I need to say this exact term this way. But instead, just connecting with that person on a real level and like trying to understand it from their perspective, putting yourself in their shoes, as everybody always says, is like the golden rule. But I feel like that's just not talked about enough. And people really kind of don't think about it when they're going into huge opportunities in front of them. So speaking of your time in etiquette, how do you think your, definition or understanding of it has evolved over the years? Like I know you mentioned it's changed a little bit.
It has changed massively. And I think when I first started as an etiquette trainer, there were a lot of gender specific stereotypes of what etiquette should be. For example, my first client ever in the South, they said, I was training them. They said, all the ladies in the business room stay seated, the gentlemen would stand. And I'm listening to this and I don't believe this. And I know, what has traditionally been taught at, the previous etiquette experts they'd had come in to teach. It was a law firm in the South, a big one. And I had to be a little bit brave because I didn't agree with that. And I was like, well, if it's okay, I'm actually going to put in my 2 cents here. I think in modern etiquette, which is what I specialize in, with modern etiquette, business is genderless. So it's not about the gender, it's about how to show respect to the person walking in. So my recommendation would be that everyone should stand, not dependent on your gender, to shake hands. And, half the room was, and the other half of the room was like, this is the coolest thing we've ever heard, mostly the women. And so it takes being brave and to say, I don't think that's right anymore sometimes. I think, traditional etiquette would say, ladies should sit like this. Gentlemen should sit like that.
Right.
And I don't teach that. I don't believe that. I think I always say, if you're wearing a dress or skirt, try this seating position because it protects your modesty. If you're wearing trousers or pants or whatever you are, then try one of these sitting positions. And it's up to you to choose what's comfortable for you.
Right.
So I think etiquette is massively involved and still evolving every day. Think about communication, technology etiquette. It's constantly and ever evolving.
Yeah, and I think even when you said, taking that first step of actually speaking up and allowing yourself to kind of put yourself out of that comfort zone, but feel like you had something important to say. And it was met with mixed reviews. Like half of them were like, oh no, but then half of them were like, yes, oh my gosh. I think that is something that happens in careers throughout your entire career. The ability to speak up, the ability to use your voice, sometimes met with apprehension or like, oh, this hasn't been done yet. But then that's where, you're able to build this global consulting, coaching enterprise because you're doing something that hasn't been done yet and you're taking that chance. So you've worked with leaders, professionals, organizations across various industries. I mean, you run this amazing company. So what was actually that process of starting the company? I know you talked about your journey to doing that, but what is it actually like being an entrepreneur, being, the head of a company, building a brand, and even branding yourself? Like we've seen on your social media too, my personal favorite video was when you teach Snoop Dogg etiquette. Like that was insane for the Olympics. So, even just fun events like that you get to have now at this level, but what is it really like to be able to find those opportunities for your career, for your company, and also be able to continuously grow in addition to those viral moments?
Yeah, of course. I think that the key is always staying really humble, knowing that tomorrow it could be gone. There's, you just don't know what life, so I really try to lead with kindness, and I really tried to be grateful for every win. When I started, it was me as janitor and CEO. I was by myself. I remember I had one office email. It was info@beaumontetiquette.com. And it was me. It was just me. I was training. I was pitching. I remember I went to a local college in New York City and I put up flyers in the student, kind of lunch area. And it was like free etiquette class because I just needed practice teaching. And I was like, free. And I got zero RSVPs. Like I couldn't pay people to come to my classes. And
Crazy.
So I thought, okay, this is not working. I'm in big trouble. I've just quit my job. And what am I going to do? So I think this is where UF thinking really comes into play and how we are trained as global thinkers too. I was like, okay, we've got to change tech. And I want everybody listening just to remember this. There's something called change tech. So if you're a sailor, I was a sailor growing up in Florida.
No way.
When you're coming into the wind, right? You're coming into the wind. Suddenly, if the sail loses the wind, it starts flapping and the boat stops. And so you have to change tack, which means then you go in a different direction to catch the wind again. And then you start going. So it's called changing tack. So this is a business term that I use all the time. So I'm constantly changing tack from that day where I had no RSVPs to my free class up to today when we're pitching billion-dollar brands and something doesn't work, a pitch doesn't work, we change tack and we go back. Yeah. And so the lesson there is really it's resilience and it's not giving up, it's not getting frustrated. And I think that for me at that time, I realized I was like, okay, so how do I change tack? I then used my journalism, my PR side of my brain and my training and my education. And I was like, I'm going to come up with a class that is about pop culture. And right then the Duke and Duchess in England were coming to America for the first time ever. They were coming. And I was like, I'm going to launch a class called The Duchess Effect, how to emulate the style, grace, and poise of a duchess. Yeah. Pair it with pop culture, pitch it to People magazine. And I pitched it to probably like 50 or 60 people at People. Nobody responded except for one. You only ever need one. And within a week, it was on People, it was in Vogue, it was everywhere. And that was the beginning of the sale opening for me. But it was about changing tack. So that is something that I want everybody listening to always remember. You apply somewhere you don't get in, change tack.
Oh, wow. I love that. And also the branding yourself, I think, is a big part of that, of taking those chances. What is that like now, like evolving your brand with social media, with being tapped into pop culture?
Well, branding yourself, I teach an entire course about branding yourself. It is so important. I can't even tell you how important to brand yourself is. Because think about it like this. Whether you are a student listening right now, or you're about to graduate and start on your own, or you're just a fan and you've already started your career, I want you to think about this. When you look at a billboard and you see like a big Apple logo or those golden arches, we instantly, the swoosh, we know what it means. We know what it is, right? We automatically know what that brand is. And these brands spend billions of dollars creating these brands. So why don't we, as people, brand ourselves? Of course we should. It's ridiculous that we don't. So the most recognizable people, whether they're celebrities or business people. Think about even Steve Jobs, right? Everybody knew Steve Jobs because he just had that black turtleneck on. You know, he had the look, he had the glasses, he didn't, you know, he just had the same thing, but he was instantly recognizable. So there's physical branding, and I will say, you have two things you do every single day that are the exact same thing. And that is good branding. That makes yourself instantly recognizable. If you want to be kind of next level recognizable, there's three things that you do every single day as a part of your physical appearance that so think about Anna Wintour, think about Elvis, think about Dolly Parton, think about Mark Zuckerberg, in whatever industry. These people all do three things the same all the time. So that's like next level. But that's just the beginning of a very long branding class, but it's so important to brand yourself.
What are your 2 or 3 things that you do?
I would say 98% of the time have my hair back in a pony, or my hair is always back out of my face, and usually a red lip, or a kind of like a bright lip, I should say, and like an earring, like a big old earring is my like thing. It's like pony, lip, chunk earring, and then we're good, or like a statement earring.
There we go. I have to work on my 3 things. Robert, you know yours?
Not at all. Not at all. I like to wake up and make my hair more messy. You know, I like the waviness. I don't know. It's
but yours could be like amazing hair, glasses, and then like collared shirt. Like you could change up the color, you could change up, but like every day you've got the same 3 things. It's hard. It's hard. 2 is easy. I think 3 is really hard.
Wow.
I know.
So
okay.
you're given a certain type of vibe, I guess you could say.
It's a vibe. You're telling people it's not about just, you know, presenting yourself to show respect to yourself and other people, but it's about making something recognizable. Trust is built on first impressions. If people see you and they think, oh, I already know that person, they automatically trust you. And then the rest is history. I think it's really important.
So I think just from my understanding, seeing how you answered the first 2 questions, I'm just blown aback. I think you're somebody that like knows how to take leadership and take, I guess, opportunities on as you see them. You know, you are the first person to send that email or make that connection on LinkedIn. Like you said, you reached out to 60 people at People's Magazine to make that happen, which is, I find incredible. And as someone that's trying to start my own business, that's exactly what you have to do. And most of the time people don't even respond. So I found that just absolutely incredible.
Only takes 1.
Yes, seriously.
It only takes 1. And you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yes,
Remember that. Remember 100%. That, right? And my business mentor, I think everyone should try to have a mentor, a business mentor out there. Mm-hmm. My business mentor currently, he always says, and it's written on a Post-it on my desk. It says, put in the work.
Yeah.
Put in the work.
We say this quote to each other a lot, but I'd rather go 3 for 13 than 3 for 40. Or I'd rather go 3 for 40 than 3 for 13, because if I went 3 for 13, that means I stopped shooting. And that's kind of the mindset that we have with our guests as well. We're reaching out all times of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, good. It's all you need is 1. You just need 1 good one, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess when you have a client now and you sit down with them, obviously you talked about branding, you've talked about a lot of different factors of a person. What do you think is like the first thing that you talk to them about, or the first thing that you think as you're sitting across from them?
Well, for me, it's a lot of psychology. It's about understanding what they want. What are they trying to get out of this? Everyone comes to us with it could be a problem, it could be a desire, it could be a goal. So that is the most important thing, is to understand what your client needs or wants. What are they looking for? Yeah. And then you work backwards, and then creating something where it's really bespoke, and they really, really get what they're looking for out of that, you know, program or pitch or whatever it is. So when I'm sitting across from someone, I'm saying, when you leave our time together today, what do you want? Tell me what you want. What is the perfect world? Nothing here. It's a judgment-free zone. Nothing you can say is wrong. What do you want? And I think, you know, I've heard everything. And I think that at the end of the day, I do my best. It's a part coaching. It's a trainer. It's a coach, really. But I think at the end of the day, it's a lot of interpersonal skills. But my whole goal is to teach them things that they can implement immediately, right then and there, from that moment forward,
Wow.
they can start using, or their teams.
I feel like that seems so simple, but inherently that's the entire problem. They're going to you for that one thing, and or a couple, and if they say that and like are outright about it from the start, I feel like you as somebody that's going to help them with that, you're put in a much better position.
Yeah, and you have to think fast. You have to know your craft. I think you really have to know what you're doing, because if and I think it's, half of it's education and the other half of it's practice.
Yeah.
And there's something that I keep on my website. When I teach my business etiquette courses, I always say that, there's 85%. This is a Harvard Stanford study that says 85% in business is based on one thing, 15% the other. So 15% is your technical skill set. 85% is your ability to connect with other people, which means you could be the smartest person in this room. You could be getting straight A's. It does not matter. If you can't connect with other people and show compassion, likability, then you are not going to be as successful as that person who can. And the good news is that social intelligence or emotional intelligence can be learned.
Yeah.
People argue that. I have seen it. It can be. I've done it. I've taught it. It can be learned. It's all about connecting with other people, showing compassion. And there's social and emotional cues. There's body language. There's eye contact. But it's like that's so basic to say that. But we teach an entire 30-minute eye contact manipulation. And I know it sounds crazy, but a lot of our law firm clients, when they go into, it's called a negotiation tactics class.
Wow.
And they go in and we teach them how to negotiate. It's really interesting. Even though I'm not an attorney, I never went to law school, but I teach attorneys, really high level attorneys, how to negotiate.
Wow. I think that's so cool to see, because I think even what we were saying before of like, there's big misconceptions around etiquette. Like there's an outdated version that people have in their mind. There's like this gap that they have in the understanding of it's social and professional etiquette is something that's so important, and it is such a needed skill. And etiquette means, like you said, showing that compassion, showing that kindness, showing that confidence, and being able to go to all of these different industries is so cool. I want to talk about your books a little bit. You've written 2 books. What made you want to put all of this in paper? And when you're writing these books, who did you have in mind? Who did you write them for? And what's one thing that people may be surprised by while reading them?
I wrote these for people that couldn't come see me in New York City. People from all over the world would write in or send a DM and say, hey, I really want to come to your class, and I just can't make it to the Plaza Hotel. I can't make it to New York City. And at the time that I wrote the books, it was pre-Zoom. And so I kind of thought, okay, how do I reach people? And I wanted it when I first I was working with a publisher, and they were like, okay, we're going to make this kind of etiquette Bible-looking thing, and we want it to be really thorough and 10 chapters, and each one 200 pages. And I was like, oh, it sounds horrible. And I was like, oh, like if I wouldn't read it, oh my goodness. And I wanted it to be affordable to most people, and which they of course didn't want to hear. They get a percentage of it. And I was like, I want it to be affordable. I want it to be almost like a guide that people can put in a bag and take out and reference. And I want it to be all things that people can literally start doing today. That is my goal. And so I wrote a book, Modern Etiquette Made Easy, which is about social etiquette, social emotional intelligence. And then I wrote about business etiquette. And with the business etiquette book and the social intelligence books, I actually talk about graduating from UF, going to London, learning, and then the business one, I actually give an example of, you see someone walk into a room and they are no better educated, no better dressed, no better anything than you. But suddenly everyone just gravitates toward that person. Everybody wants to know who they are, wants to introduce themselves, wants to be introduced to. And what makes that person in business so much better? They're not anything, you're looking at them and there's no difference. But there is, and it's energy. It's energy. You walk into the room and you're like, oh, wow, how do you get that person? I want to be friends with that person. I want to work with that person. And so I talk a lot about energy and business energy and connectivity. And that's my approach on etiquette. And so etiquette is way more than forks and knives. It is so much more than that. It's actually, it's connecting people. Yeah.
There we go.
So after you graduated from UF, just so out of personal curiosity, did you actually like on the first day, did you like
The
fly
first
to New
day.
York?
The first day. I
And
left
you had no
Gainesville
plans other
Airport.
than just like, I want to start a company, I'll, put out some flyers.
To go work at the PR company, or you said you were working 4 jobs?
That was for,
No,
yeah.
I didn't have any jobs. And my parents told me, do not do this. This is not wise. You don't know anybody. I did an internship at PBS the summer before to kind of test the waters and see what I thought of New York City. And you can live in NYU dorms, even though you're not an NYU student. So I did that the summer before. I was obsessed. I could not wait to get back. Graduated next day. My dad came, picked up my card to sell it, and I left. I left Alachua County Airport, like done. And I didn't have any jobs. So I was sharing an apartment on 33rd and 3rd, and which is like the district of students. Yeah. And I did not have a job, and I went knocking, and I could not find a job. I really couldn't. I tried. I applied to every single PR agency, firm. I didn't even care at that point, and couldn't get hired. So then I started bartending. I had a job on Wall Street as a caterer, and just kind of kept applying. And then I got one company gave me an opportunity to come in. And I remember coming in, they were the agency of Revlon, of Johnson & Johnson, and the founder, Suzanne Lane, very, very, she was one of the first PRs. She is like the godmother of PR.
I was gonna say, I've learned about her work in my classes.
She is incredible. And so I walked in, and I wasn't even sure why she asked me to come. I was like, my resume is non-existent, but okay. And she said she liked my cover letter. She was like, which nowadays would just be an email, really, cover letter based. And she's like, I liked your energy. And then, so we started chatting, and it wasn't my good grades. It wasn't my experience in PR, because at that point I had none. It wasn't my internships. It was that we connected. And she said, I'm not sure that you're right for this company, but I want you to come in on Monday and we'll give it a shot. You've got 3 days to impress me. So I remember it was when you get an opportunity, you cannot
let it go.
You can't. You really have to give it your all. And so I did, and I showed up. I was 15 minutes early, and I went, and I arrived, and I was like so organized and ready to go. And I think, I thankfully got the job, but it was, I really think it was because we connected.
That's awesome. I feel like that's so important. And we always say this in all of our episodes, like as advice to students, but truly I feel like the number one common thread through every episode, no matter what industry it is that connection, is taking that risk, is honestly taking the time to even hear somebody out, hear their story. Like you said, treat someone with kindness. It's so important. And I think this all goes back to how people view success. Like you said, like you didn't care at that point what your job was. Nowadays, like I'm sure even starting your own company, you were like, I will literally have people come for free to learn about etiquette. Now you're teaching billion-dollar brands, and really helping their companies as well. So what does success mean to you now? And how has that definition changed for you?
Success to me means that I'm enjoying what I'm doing, that I'm impacting my community, that I love what I do, that I get to do what I want, that I'm making a difference, that I'm paying it forward, that I'm leading with kindness, that I'm not just taking, I'm giving back. Success to me means that I'm proud of my work, proud of my company, proud of how much we've achieved. It's not success in terms of financial for me. Financial success is one thing. And while, of course, companies would love financial success, to me, that's not success. For me personally, my definition, right. Everybody will have different definitions of it. Yeah. But my definition of success is joy in living every day, excited to wake up like a little kid when you can't wait to wake up and run out and play with all your friends every single day. I cannot wait to wake up and go to work. And that to me is success.
That is success. And that's rare too. I think so many people will almost put themselves in boxes or allow themselves to go to jobs that they might, maybe not their first job, but their career, because it's safe or it's stable. And I think one of the biggest things we've heard is a lot of the people that have been on these podcasts, these guests that have created such empires like you, took that chance and stepped out of that box and said, I know this is risky, I'm leaving my safe job, but this is something that could be good. And I think even if that doesn't work out, even if you end up going back to a stable job and having an amazing career, I think either way, take those opportunities. Allow yourself to have the opportunity to fail, the opportunity to succeed in a new way, in changing the tack, like you said. Allow yourself to pivot and have a new direction. And I think that's something for students too. Like, be kind to yourself. Know that like time will permit. There will be time to be able to do that, and you will find success no matter what that is. But like you said, like that's my biggest dream, is to be able to have a career one day where I am excited and like so can't wait to go to work. Like that's a dream, because you spend so much of your life with your career and it's so intertwined with your happiness and version of success. So thank you for sharing that, for sure.
You're welcome. And I do have to say that the job before I started my company, there was a moment where I had a team of 16, 17 people, and we were working on some of the biggest brands in the world. When I left PR, this was my dream job. This was my dream job, and I had it in London. And I remember I was on the tube going to work, and I had 2 phones for 2 different time zones of clients. And I remember I just burst into tears. I was on the tube and I burst into tears because I was so overwhelmed and anxious.
Wow.
And I'm not a huge crier. Like sometimes, like that's one of the last ways I personally, resort to frustration. And I couldn't even help it. I remember just bawling. I didn't care who saw me. I was like on the tube with 2 phones and clients and pressure. And I remember that was the day my husband actually said, is this worth it? Wow. And I was like, nope. And when you realize your dream job is no longer your dream job, it's time to change tack and do what you love, because you only live once. You've got one shot at this life, this thing called life. And so success is joy and happiness and not being like so excited to wake up to work. And it is possible. I promise you, it's out there.
Wow. I feel like so inspired by this. I'm like, so like, I feel like so excited, because you're right. Like it is so important, and asking yourself, is it worth it, is something that I think people do. Like, I remember I was like pre-med my first year, and I remember like really stressing out about it. And I was like, is this something that I want to do? And it's led me to be able to create this podcast and be in PR, and something that I love doing. What was your moment like that, Rafe?
Oh, it's a loaded question, honestly. For the podcast specifically?
Or just like in general, like have you had time where you were like, oh, this isn't what I want to do anymore?
Oh, yeah. Recently, and Jordan and I are kind of on the same wavelength, but like for the past, I guess, 5 years of my life, I've always been pre-law. I always wanted to be a lawyer, but not necessarily practice law. I just wanted to see what kind of doors that would open for myself. But recently, and I've gone throughout the whole college process thinking that, started studying for the LSAT, all that stuff. And then I realized one day, and I got a job offer, and I went to California, and a bunch of things changed in my life. But I realized one day, I was like, I don't even really want to be a lawyer. I told myself I don't want to practice a single day, go into the courtroom. So what really is the point of using 3 years of my life to do something that I'm not necessarily passionate about? And so that, to me, that was like, it changed everything.
The crying on the tube moment.
Yeah, literally.
Crying on the tube moment. Yeah, but I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you that you came to that. Imagine if you would have gotten through all law school and then you were sitting there with your fabulous degree and you're like, wow, I don't like my life right now. Like, what?
Literally.
How frustrating. I'm so excited for you that you get to change tack now. That's amazing. Thank you. Also, if you find, let's say your next idea, you're like, I got it. This is it. Amazing. I'm doing it. There's something in one of my books I write about that I stick to, and it's called the Plan B mentality. And this will get you so far. And it's something I created because I was struggling. And it's when you have something that you're so passionate about. I came up with this idea. I want to start this etiquette company. And everyone's like, Myka, etiquette's like from the 1950s. Nobody cares. I can't tell you the amount of people that said it's not going to work. But I knew, I felt it. I was so passionate about it. I was like, no, I'm going to make it modern. I'm going to make it cool. It's going to work. And the amount of no's, I'm like, okay, well, what's your plan B? Was the phrase, the question that if I heard one more time, I was going to like just shut my
Well,
laptop
yeah.
and move to Barbados and sell coconuts. Like I was ready for that.
Yes.
And I came up with this thought. I'm like, you know what? The plan B is there is no plan B. My plan B is the mentality that I'm so passionate about this. I'm going to make this work. Because if you have a plan B, you fall back on it.
Yeah. And even
It only
subconsciously.
works. Right. The plan B mentality only works when you are 100%. You were like, this is what I want to do in my life. And all the people telling you it's not going to work, it doesn't, you just have to block that out, because then if you have a plan B, you fall back on it. So when you feel in your heart that this is your path, you cannot make a plan B, because then you'll fall back on it. So there is no plan B, is the plan B mentality. But that I do. I'm launching a company called Mini Manners. We just started, and it's the new etiquette, modern etiquette for children. And it's a startup, and it is hard. It is hard, right? I'm starting for the first time again in the last just few months, starting this company. But I believe that the future for children is to teach them kindness, and not just manners, but kindness. And I believe this is the future. Teaching social and emotional intelligence in an AI world is the future for our children, for that next generation. And so I need to fundraise. I need to do all these things. Doors are going to slam in my face. But I'm so sure of this. I have no plan B. It's just going to work.
I love that. And I think this is a great place to pivot and to do a new fun part of the episodes. I want to take the last 10 minutes we have together. And I would love to have a little bit of advice. Bring in our listeners, our students, people that are listening to this. If we were all sitting down with you, could you give us a mini, coaching lesson of let's see, preparing for an interview or preparing for an exciting job opportunity? What would that look like for us who are just starting our careers or maybe doing something new? Could you teach us a little something?
Okay, so some things that make a really big difference. So I work with HR companies and teams at some of the biggest companies in the world. So I get to sit in these HR rooms and hear what they want. So they want people that have done their research, not only on the company, but the people that they are going to be meeting. So if you have the name of the person that's interviewing you, then you research that person. If you don't, you ask for the name. It is okay to ask for the name of who I'll be meeting, and getting those names. You research, where did they go to school? Did they also go to UF? Did they you never know, you need to do the research. I think then when you come in, I want you to shake hands. I want you to walk up, and I want you to be the person that says to them, I want you to introduce yourself. Don't be shy. Don't wait until they come up to you. And it's strong eye contact. If they walk into the room, I want you to stand up, shake their hand. And I want you to come in, look at all your presentation materials. So you walk in, your resume is nicely printed out with 5-6 copies, a nice paper, not crinkled. It's in a presentation folder. You have a black pen. Black is the most formal in business pen, not a red pen, black pen. And look at all of these. Then you have a notepad. So you're not taking notes on your phone. You've got a notepad that matches, you've got a spiral in the notepad, and it doesn't have paper flying out of the spiral. Because remember, all of these things are part of your first impression. Does your laptop case have black and stickers and things that are maybe cool and, as a student, but not as a professional? You're painting that picture. You are the brand already. Can they see you as a part of their brand? Do company culture research. What do they dress like? How do they present themselves? People want to work with and do business with people that they have something in common with. If you can show them how easily you would fit in, then of course it doesn't mean to dress like everybody. Don't be robotic. You can still have your pop of color, whatever's you or your brand, but make sure you're fitting into the company culture. So it's a lot of research. When you leave that interview, and take the water. You might have heard this before. If they offer you water, take the water. Don't walk in with a Starbucks cup, because then it gives you time to kind of organize yourself while they go get the water. And you can deep breath. And if you are nervous, I think breathing is so important. It's a natural tranquilizer for your body, but start the breathing exercise 10 minutes before you go in. People often make the mistake of okay, I'm nervous, I'm gonna start now, but that's often too late. So start your breathing exercises 10 minutes before your meeting if you get nervous, and write a handwritten thank you letter. It will set you apart time and time again. Nobody does it nowadays. It's a tangible thing that lands on their desk that sets you apart. Thank them for the opportunity when you leave. It's so wonderful to meet you today. Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful for your time. And then follow up in your thank you letter. Do not start the thank you letter with thank you. It's expected. Dear Mr. Jones, dear Mrs. Smith, it was fascinating learning about your upcoming da 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 da. Then you say, well, then thank you for the da 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 da. Follow up with the next step. Include a business card. If you don't have a business card, it's called a calling card. Create your card so they have a tangible, again, card for you. I still have calling cards that, when I don't want to tell people what I do, because sometimes nobody wants to sit next to you if you're an etiquette instructor. So I also have calling cards depending on the situation. But I think those are really smart to have.
I love that sometimes people don't want to sit next to you because you're in etiquette because they're like worried. But I think not only just for your own brand, but I think as an entirety of the industry, you're reframing what that looks like, and you're being able to change the mindset on that and change how that looks with etiquette and change the perception of it, which I think is something even bigger than the company that you're doing and this amazing work that you're doing within companies. It also is changing that because, like you said, like I feel right now like I want to learn from you, and I'm excited to like you to tell me like, oh, this is something that you could improve, this is something that you could work on, this, because I think you have such a kindness forward mindset and an open mindset that is, I think, such in drastic, I guess, what's the word I'm trying to think of, like drastic comparison, or maybe not what you may think about etiquette, like you said. And like we covered earlier in the episode, like how people may have this outdated and traditional view of it and think I can't fit this, but you can. And it's really about how you present yourself. So any further tips, like if we are, we're talking in the interview, we're making that eye contact, we've prepared ourselves right, we've done the follow-up thank you card. What does the first day on the job look like? Where, like you said, you had 3 days to prove yourself. How can you prove yourself day one?
So I want you to think of yourself as a social chameleon, which means you need to adjust and fast. So if you are in a room and everybody has high energy and you are silent, right? That means you need to pick up your energy. If you are too loud because you're nervous and you're moving around and your hands are this and everybody is calm and composed, I want you to adjust to the energy. I want you to ask questions, but educated questions. If you have a problem or, don't offer, this is my favorite thing with my team. My team is amazing. And the thing that I think I love, one of the things I love most about them, they are solution oriented. I think as a junior, one of my biggest mistakes was going to my boss with problems and saying, oh, this happened, or, ooh, this is it, instead of going with solutions. So saying, this happened, here are 3 options, and I wanted to ask you what you thought of them.
Right.
And that makes you instantly a valuable player. And I think that, coming in and being the first person in and the last person to leave is hugely important, because there's a misconception that newer generations coming out of school don't want to work and they just want to be at home and be working virtually and don't want to show up. And I work with a lot of, generations just coming out of school, and that's not true at all. They're smart workers is what they are. They're efficient. But I think when you first start, you want to make sure you're meeting the company culture in terms of showing up early, leaving, asking before you leave. I finished my, assignments. Is there anything else I can take off of you? So how can you be that and the VIP to your boss or your team? I think being kind to your colleagues, always being respectful. I think, starting conversation with the person who has no friends at the end of the bullpen desk. Everybody's sitting there. Nobody knows anybody. I think I remember going and making friends with 2 girls that were interns because I was a little scared on day 1. But the more friends you have in the company, even if it's the kitchen staff, even if it's the person helping with the bathrooms, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You start a social connection with different people and you gain confidence through that connection. Yeah. So the more people you can connect with in the office, the more familiar you feel like. And then all of a sudden, day 2, you walk in, you're like, hey, Frank, who is helping with the dishes, and Janet, nice to see you. And Janet's just a receptionist. Nobody else really pays attention to Janet, but suddenly you've got friends. And I think that's really important to connect with everyone, no matter, even if they can't benefit you. It's not about that. It's not about being opportunistic. It's about connecting and being kind with everybody. And soon word spreads that actually you're really a lot of fun and joy, and you're a joy to work with. And soon everybody wants to work with you. And it's a really cool skill set.
I feel like I always do that. Like when I'm walking up to like an interview or something, I would talk to the person in the elevator because I think you can get so in your head and you can like be talking to yourself and you have 1,000 things going on. I'm sure there's people in life though that probably don't have 1,000 things going on in their head, but for those of you and our listeners that do, I think even just being able to verbally say like, hey to somebody on the elevator or like kind of just get out of there, it breaks that like internal cycle. And so even like you said, like talking to the person that maybe we go in and like, is a receptionist at the desk and you every morning say, hi, like how was your weekend or how was your day last night?
Exactly.
And it already breaks that ice and breaks that tension so that when you go in, it's not the first time you're speaking that day or it's not the first time you've made that connection.
Exactly. Olympians don't just take off running. They warm up for an hour before they start running. I mean, why do we just walk in and expect to be the most charismatic people in the world? Like, no, it doesn't work. Like, we need warm-ups. So actually, I will leave you with one interesting story. So I got to work years ago with King Charles when he was the Prince of Wales, and my job was to take him. I was still in PR. It was my job to take him around and introduce him. Mont Blanc was my client, and so he was getting an award for Mont Blanc. And so we were bringing him around, meeting all the most important journalists in London.
Wow.
And it was part of my job to do that. And we could not find him. We're like, where is he? It was a huge ballroom. And my boss came up and was like, where is he? We call him HRH. Where's HRH? His code name. And I was like, I don't know, His Royal Highness. I'm like, where is he? Where is he? So I'm running around. My team's running around. And we find him standing at the buffet with his 2 protection officers and like his 1 aide next to him. And he's just chatting to the man serving cheese.
There we go.
And we were like, there he is. He's over there. And we had like little, head earpiece. And we're like, we found him. He's at the cheese counter. And in that moment, I stopped and I was like, let him have let's not pull him away, because he was enjoying his conversation. He didn't care who had what to benefit him in that room. And so he is a really good example of someone who just makes everybody he talks to feel loved and appreciated. And so I learned that lesson from King Charles. I've got to give credit where credit's due.
Like, wow. Like, I feel like that's an amazing place to end on. What an amazing story. And also just such an important sentiment. I think that's the number one thing we've learned through this, of like treating everyone with that respect, giving everyone a seat at the table, no pun intended, and allowing for, yourself to not take yourself so seriously, even though we're talking about etiquette here, like allowing yourself, like you said, to make those mistakes, to talk to somebody, that maybe like isn't your main goal if you're talking to in that room that night, but allowing yourself to just believe in yourself and take the ability to make that connection and form those relationships. I think it's super important. So thank you so much, Myka, for joining us today and for sharing your insights into etiquette, leadership, confidence, and how we relate to each other and ourselves in this complex modern world. So for our listeners, whether you think etiquette is tradition, confidence, or a set of tools for connection, one thing is super clear, and it's how we show up that matters. In every conversation, every handshake, every moment, we choose to be intentional. So again, thank you for everyone for tuning in. Stay curious, stay thoughtful, and join us next time for more real conversations with the leaders shaping how we live and work from around the world. Thank you for coming in literally from Europe. So thank you so much. And as always, go Gators.
Go Gators.
We like to end our episodes on a chomp. If you
yes.
would, yeah.
Can you
Okay, 2, 3. Go Gators.
Go Gators.